Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network. This is our special Saturday edition called Step Up Your Game with Dan. I'm your host, Dan Hanford, and I'll be discussing topics to help you make better decisions to increase your productivity, increase your sales, and improve your overall marketing. Visit toughdecisions.net to sign up for our free weekly entrepreneur email. Before we get started, let's hear from one of our sponsors. Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com. On the podcast with us today is a very special guest all the way from Austin, Texas, Ryan Deiss, who is the co-founder and CEO of DigitalMarketer.com. Ryan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, Ryan, I want you to get us started because I know there's going to be several people that have heard your name before, but oddly enough, there are still people who don't know who you are. So can you give a little bit of a brief background as what you have been doing in the past, just a brief background, and what your current focus is right now as an entrepreneur?
Sure. So I got started in this game of, selling stuff online and all the way back to 1999. I promise I'm not going to tell the entire story going from 99 to now because, frankly, it just makes me feel old. But yeah, so I made my first sale online in 1999 as a freshman in college, just trying to make some extra bucks. And today we call them startups. Back then it was, I wanted to create a .com like everybody else. Like that's what they refer to as a .com. And so that's kind of where I cut my teeth in the entrepreneurial space, in the online marketing, digital marketing space, was really just trying to make some extra money. I started off selling just simple ebooks. I'd find little untapped corners of the internet where people were looking for information on everything from how to roll your own sushi to how to make your own baby food to, kind of anything. And I'd have a simple little ebook produced. And this was obviously before Kindle, before, really even Amazon was a big thing. And so we were selling little digital products here and there, got into software. By the time I graduated from college, I decided to make a real business of it. And I remember, like a lot of people, attending conferences and workshops, and there I am, basically a 20-year-old kid. Not only was I young, I looked even younger than I was. And so people would ask me, what I was doing there, and we got to talking, and before too long, folks would ask me if I wanted to speak at these conferences because there just weren't that many people talking about this stuff or doing this stuff. So I agreed because I didn't know any better. And I remember after I spoke one time, somebody asked me, "Hey, do you have a book or a course or anything like that?" And I didn't. And so I figured I should maybe create one. And so I kind of back into the teaching side of marketing, doing it first and then talking about it because people ask. And that's really sort of how I've always run the business with, even now that I have business partners and, we have a number of different companies, we've always run it as a portfolio model where we have, we own businesses, we start businesses, we acquire businesses, and then we learn from the running and the doing of those businesses what actually works, and we teach and report on those things in Digital Marketer. So we teach and report on marketing things in Digital Marketer. We talk about general business and, our Warrior Mastermind. But all of the teaching comes out of the doing. And I think that's one of the things that's maybe kept us sharp and maybe set us apart over the years. So my day job, like you said, is CEO of Digital Marketer. I really enjoy teaching a lot, but I'm fortunate in that I get to sit on a number of different boards and advise a number of different companies, both the ones that we hold in our portfolio group and other ones that I'm just personally invested in or personally excited about. So I get to see and experience a lot of really cool, fun things.
Well, one of the things I want to dive in with you is how you have, been able to scale your businesses the way you've been able to scale them, especially from the digital side of things, because that's where your main focus has been. Because I see other people that 20 years ago, they had this itch to want to teach or coach or do something like that, and they're still struggling. They're still not doing what they really were wanting to do 20 years ago, but you've really found the way to be able to market yourself to a point where everybody wants you at their event. Everybody wants you speaking at their event. They know you're the leader when it comes to, digital marketing training and things like that. So can you share with us maybe some of your tips or tricks or secrets maybe that you've used over the years, or maybe even something you're using recently that has really been able to step you up above everybody else?
Sure. So the thing that definitely set us apart in the early days at Digital Marketer, and I think continues to set us apart today, and I think certainly if you want to get more credibility and more awareness and have more people seeking you out, what everybody wants to do is they want to talk about the why, or the what. They want to talk about why this big trend is emerging. They want to talk about, what is coming down the road. And I remember, when Facebook was brand new and everybody's talking about, why Facebook advertising is so important. We never did that. And I never did that. I always just said, here's the step-by-step tactical thing of what you should do if you want to take advantage of this. And I think a lot of marketers, a lot of business owners, they miss out on the importance of being specific. They miss out on the importance of just answering very, very, very specific, detailed questions, because what everybody wants to be is they want to be seen as this authority or this thought leader. And they think that being an authority or a thought leader means giving some soaring keynote that's going to get everybody to rise to their feet and give them this standing ovation. In my experience, one of the worst things that you can get as a speaker is a standing ovation, because it means that you were able to maybe impact and appeal to people emotionally, but they don't necessarily want to do business with you. They were entertained in that moment, then they move on with their lives. And so whether you're a speaker or whether you're producing videos or whether you're doing offers on a landing page, be specific. And so let's, from a practical perspective, let me give you some examples to kind of, just again, to follow my own advice and be a little bit more specific. How about that?
Sure.
We're getting very meta right now. But, I see people, and this goes back to, I remember when this idea of putting out ebooks and special reports and lead magnets, when people were first doing this, now everybody does it. A lot of the types of things that people would put out is 7 reasons why this thing is so important. Nobody cares about that. They might download it, but they don't consume it. And they certainly don't take action on it. Just tell people specifically, step by step, what they need to do. There was a guy in the pool installation business. He installed and put swimming pools in place for homeowners. And all he did, his entire marketing strategy was just giving specific answers to specific questions. So people would ask hey, how long does a fiberglass pool last? And he would just give them an answer. That is lost on so many people. They don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about 7 reasons why you need to choose a fiberglass pool over, a different kind of pool. That's not what people want to know. Similarly, when we were first getting started with Digital Marketer, people wanted to know questions like, what color should my buy button be? And I remember seeing other marketers answer that type of question, whether it was if they got asked it on in a panel or some type of Q&A, and they give some long drawn out thing about you need to test it. And here's the different, psychology behind all the colors, and just ramble on about, how somebody needed to figure out and why it was important to understand color theory. We just said orange, we just gave a very specific answer to a very specific question. And so that's kind of the overarching marketing strategy that I think has always allowed our message to cut through. When everybody's standing, on a corner kind of shouting and pontificating, we're walking up to people and just answering the questions that they're asking. So anytime we go into a new market, the first place that I go is Quora, Quora. You familiar with Quora.com?
Yes, and that was going to be my next question is, where do you come up with these specific questions that you can actually answer?
Yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing about the internet is if you got a question, somebody's already answered it, and they've probably answered it on Quora.com. And so if you go to Quora and you look for your particular topic, your particular subject matter, you will see people asking questions. And they're generally going to, when you do a search, the questions are going to search by which ones have had the most activity around them, the most engagement, suggesting that those are the ones that get asked the most. Start with those. And the beautiful thing about Quora is it doesn't just have the questions, it has the answers there. So hopefully if you're an expert, if you're an authority, you know the answer, but I mean, it might be good to check over somebody else's work and see if they said something that maybe you might not say. So I'll go to Quora. There's another site, answerthepublic.com. Answerthepublic.com is another site that will list out the different questions that people ask. But My strategy has always been, what are the top 10 questions that people are asking, the top 10 ultra specific questions that people are asking about your particular area? More times than not, it's not the question you wish that they were asking. You wish that they were asking the question that was going to very easily lead to the sale that you want to make next. But that's not how this works, right? What is the question that they are asking? And then, the strategy used to be, okay, I'm going to produce a lead magnet or a special report that answers these questions. Then it was, I'm going to do a blog post that answers these questions. And today it probably looks more like shooting a quick video. And maybe you do that, and you post that video on Facebook or you post it natively on LinkedIn if you're in more in the B2B space. But I always tell people, do 10, put them out there. And at the end say, hey, if you got questions about this, you probably got questions about other things. We answer all questions all the time over at our site. Come check us out. Something powerful happens when you answer a specific question that somebody has. You give them hope. You give them hope that they're not just lost. You give them hope that they didn't ask something that can't be answered. We forget what it's like. Certainly if you're in business and you're selling, your ideas or your expertise, you're at a point where you're not really asking a lot of questions anymore. You figured this stuff out. We forget what it's like when we were getting started and we didn't know what the heck we were doing and how just scary it was and how foolish it made us feel. And when you're able to ask that question and somebody comes back with a very specific answer, it's a powerful feeling. It gives you hope that you're on the right track and that you found the right person. I think specificity is one of the most powerful forces in all of marketing, being ultra specific. It's how we do it when we're writing copy and we do it when we're creating content. I think if people do that, then they're going to be able to break through the noise.
So at what point do you make the decision to, put this behind a closed door that people have to pay to get access to? And how do you make that decision a determining factor on how they get to you now? Because I know in the beginning, you probably were doing a lot of this stuff, just to get your name out there and get that notoriety and that promotionals. But at what point do you say, hey, I'm going to put this now behind a lock and key and they got to pay to play?
So I don't think you ever do that with those very specific questions that people are asking. Because when somebody says, I just want an answer to this question, they've got their own thing in mind. So I think that what you put behind lock and key might wind up including some of the information that you give away freely, but the promise changes, right? So when all I'm doing is promising a specific answer to this question that you're asking, that's just called being nice. If somebody walked up to you and, at a party, or heck, even a stranger walked up to you on the street and like, hey, I'm trying to find this restaurant. Do you know where it is? It'd be super weird and creepy if you were like, well, I do because I'm from here. What's that information worth to you? Yeah. That's freaking weird. You would just be a total jerk, right? Nobody would want to have anything to do with you. So I think putting the answers to very specific questions behind lock and key is not really a good strategy. But what I think you can do is you can say, hey, my guess is if you're asking this question, it's because really what you want is this bigger thing over here. We happen to have a comprehensive training where we answer not just questions like that, but also questions like this and this and this, and a bunch of other ones that you probably haven't even started asking yet, but should. So really, if you just want the entire roadmap to get from this point here to this point over there, where in light of the question you asked, I think you're probably wanting to go, then here's kind of that comprehensive roadmap. So it's not about what do you put behind lock and key and what do you make available. Very often, the content that we have in our most expensive trainings is also freely available in other places, but it isn't organized in such a way that you can follow it step by step to achieve a particular result. So I think the things that you put behind, more behind lock and key are those things that if somebody goes through, they're going to take them from point A to point B. They're going to take them from that less desirable before state to that more desirable after state. Which content it is largely irrelevant. What you charge has everything to do with the promise and the ultimate value that you deliver.
Well, and I think that's a key distinction because, I think a lot of people think that they shouldn't give away all their good stuff and all their secrets and stuff. But a lot of times that's actually one of the best things you can do is give that stuff away because that's going to attract people to you. And like you said, you can find a lot of the information in a lot of these paid programs all over the internet. I mean, just about anything you can find out nowadays. But it's like you said, it's that organized fashion of how it's presented that's what people are paying for.
Yeah, and more than ever, what people are really paying for is they're paying for somebody to help them through the process. Mm-hmm. So it's gotten increasingly difficult over the years to just sell training. right? To just sell, I'm going to show you how to do this thing. And so at Digital Marketer, for example, we've kind of made two pivots. On one hand, we've pivoted and said, we're going to certify you in this area. So yeah, we're going to train you on how to do it, but at the end of it, you're not just going to have knowledge, you're going to have higher status, right? And more times than not, when we sell our certifications, we're selling our certifications to a company who wants to certify their people. So the person who is consuming it isn't the person who purchased it. So that's one pivot we've had to make, because a lot of people think, they're not right, by the way, but they believe that, well, if I want to get good at email marketing, I can just go to YouTube and look at watch a bunch of email marketing videos and I'll know everything that's in that course. That's not true, but it's the perception. And so for many people, they devalue premium content because they believe that the information is readily available. Again, it's not true, but it doesn't matter if that's what they believe. So what do you have to do? You have to offer them a slightly different desired end result. You have to offer them, maybe it's higher status, the opportunity to go after a higher paying job, that kind of thing. Or you need to offer them help and assistance that they can't get merely by watching a video. So we also, at Digital Marketer, we've gone the certification route. We've also gone, kind of more the done with you, let's kind of walk through this together implementation route. So we have a Digital Marketer Elite. So our highest level elite membership, where we do a one-day workshop every single month. This one-day workshop is the equivalent of the type of training that in the past we would have sold for, $500, $1,000, $2,000. Now it's delivered live. So we live stream it out. People can watch it. So they're experiencing it in real time. That's a little bit different, right? They're in the moment, they're doing the work. It's a lot more interactive. And then afterwards, we do what we call an execution cycle, a 10-day execution cycle, where they do some work and they're able to post it up and submit it and get feedback. And, we'll work with them to audit and make sure that it's ready to go. So it's more than just training. So I think if you're selling, just training or just content, and I throw up the just, those are air quotes, right? When I say just, I don't mean to minimize the value of just training. Unfortunately, there's a good chance your market is minimizing the value of just training. So you may need to do some things to add something more to it.
How important do you think it is to have, layers like that or levels in a funnel like you have? Because, obviously you have the ability to, people that get free content from you. And then of course you have the different layers of the digital marketer programs that you have as well.
It's critical because relationships work in stages. So whether it's a romantic relationship or a business relationship, it's always going to take place in stages. So people who say, and I know this is I hear this a lot with folks who I only do high ticket stuff. That's like saying I'm never going to take somebody out, out on a date. I'm only going to sleep with people, right? You're kind of narrowing your audience just a little bit, right? Or you're heavily relying upon referrals. It's just not how relationships work. I think you need to be willing to go first. I think you need to be willing to, quote unquote, buy some people a drink to start that conversation. And then I think you need to know how to progress the relationship, because there's also a lot of people out there in the social media space and in the content marketing space where they don't like asking for the order, or they only sell stuff that's really inexpensive because they're scared to ask people for a lot of money. And that's not good either. That's like the kind of person who only goes on, first dates, or, they're kind of living in the perpetual friend zone, romantically speaking. And that's why I equate so many things in business to romantic relationships, because it's always relationships are relationships. And so I think having a starting point, knowing where that's going to go to next and where the next stage is, all that's really, really important. We made that mistake for years at Digital Marketer. We only had one level of lab. One level of lab was about $40 a month. And all of our emphasis was on how do we get as many people in this membership as we can. And at some point, we kind of reached a ceiling where we found that, gosh, the cost of acquiring a new member, it's too expensive. This is getting really, really difficult. And realized that I need to take a page out of my own playbook. He or she who's able and willing to spend the most to acquire a customer wins. We need to be able and willing to spend more. We don't need to be trying to figure out ways to lower our acquisition costs. We need to figure out how do we increase our acquisition costs. And the simplest way to do that is you add additional levels. So we added a $95 level that had all of our trainings and certifications in it. We added a $295 level. That's that elite level that I told you about that has more of the coaching and interactive aspect of it. And we were able to almost double our average member value. just by adding those, without adding any new members, we were able to double the value. Well, if we've doubled the value of what a member is worth, we can now spend twice as much to acquire them and maintain the same basic margin. So levels are important both in the early stages, and they're also important in the latter stages of the relationship if you really want to have a mature business that can scale.
Well, and one of the things I also am considering too, as you're talking about this, is obviously there's different levels, but there's also a deciding factor that I think a lot of people get caught up on is, do I charge a flat rate fee for it? Because, I've been to events before, and I'm sure you probably have as well, Ryan, that, people say that, the stickiness of a member in a monthly continuity program is only 3.5 months or something like that, or whatever that number is. And so they get worried about, spending all this money to acquire a customer, and then they drop off after 3.5 months. So I hear a lot of people saying, well, don't charge monthly, just do a one lump sum for the whole year or for, lifetime or whatever. So how do you make a determination as to which one of those you go with?
Sure. I mean, the people who talk about the average is only 3.5 months, in my experience, most of the people who say that have never actually tracked what theirs or anybody else's is. And I'll tell you, it's nearly impossible until you have had a subscription program that's gone for years. It's nearly impossible to know what your average stick rate by month is, because it changes every single month, right? So a better thing to look at is, what's your monthly churn rate like? So how many are you losing every month? You can generally then back into a stick rate. How long on average do people stay each month? So I think you need to look at monthly churn. It's usually going to be worse in the first 60 days. And then after that, the goal really, you definitely need to be sub 10% after the first, 30 or 60 days, or yeah, you're right. People aren't going to be, your average stick rate's probably going to be less than 6 months, but there's no reason, if you have a community aspect built in, if you have some decent onboarding, there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to get it, closer to that 5% monthly unit churn number. And if you're selling some type of software, so if you're looking at SaaS, they all want to be sub 5%. They usually want to be sub, 2% if you're at the higher level, higher tickets. So I'm not saying there isn't a place for an annual, but to just say, well, on average, people only stay 3 months. So, just change it to a fixed price, charge for 6 months, and you're going to wind up with more money. That's not always true, because a couple of things that people don't take into account. Number one, they assume their conversion rate is going to be the same, which it rarely is, because charging for 6 months versus coming in like on a free trial, your conversion rate's going to dip. But the bigger thing that they're not taking into account is the reason that your average monthly stick rate, let's say it's 4 months. It's probably higher than that if you really run the numbers and you let it go long enough. But let's say it is only 4 months. The reason it's 4 months is because you have some people who are going to stay for 12 months or longer, and they are bringing up the average. Well, those people who are likely to stay for 12 months or longer, they're the ones who are also the most likely to buy when you switch it to, we're just going to charge you, for a 6 month and you'll have for life. They're the most likely to buy that. So you took your big outliers, the outliers that you want, and you brought your, cap where it would have been 12 months plus, and you brought it all the way down to 6 months. You actually took your average, if you look at it over the long haul, what are you really generating over that period of time? And you reduced it even lower than it was. So I don't agree that I've heard people make that argument. I've run the numbers, and if you have a quality, successful subscription program, then yeah, you should absolutely charge on a monthly basis and look to keep members. If you don't, then your answer shouldn't be, well, how do we, at least get some money out of them? Your question should be, how do we make this great so that people want to stay?
That's a good point. I hadn't even thought about it that way. I've always looked at it and I was like, well, if you're only keeping them for 3.5 months, maybe there's something wrong with your program.
There almost certainly is. Yeah. I'll tell you, I've asked a lot of people because I've heard folks say that. I've been speaking in conferences before and people have said the average monthly stick rate of subscription program is only 3.5 months. And I'll ask them backstage, where'd you get that number? And I've heard lots of people say it. Nobody's ever been able to give me a direct source. I've never been able to find a direct source. The closest I've come is somebody said, back in the day, that was the standard for porn sites. 3.5 months stick rate was the standard for a porn site. Now, I'm sorry, but if you can't do better than that, you probably shouldn't be in business. Most of the ones I've seen, you're gonna lose a big chunk on that first billing, and then early on it's gonna be 10, 12% every single month. if you run the math and let that go out, most of the time it's usually north of 8 months, even if you're not doing a great job.
Well, I could talk to you for hours about all these different topics. And I know you are very passionate about these. I know we could keep on going on, but I know we have a select amount of time here. So I wanted to introduce anything that you wanted to talk about as far as, like, you have the Traffic and Conversion Summit coming up, and you've been doing that now for, is that 8 years now?
This is going to be our 10th year.
10th. So this is the 10-year one.
TNC number 10. Yeah.
Well, I will be there. I will tell you that. So I already have my ticket. I'm going. So I know anybody who's listening who has any interest in online marketing and building your traffic and conversions and stuff like that, you got to go to this Traffic and Conversion Summit.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We've got a lot of big name speakers. There's one huge name that we can't yet announce because we haven't quite finalized the contract, but there's not a person, listening or pretty much alive on planet Earth who hasn't heard of this person. And we are thrilled. We've literally been trying to get this person for, almost the last 5 years. And so I'm very, very, very excited. We have Rachel Hollis coming out, who best-selling author of the book, Girl, Wash Your Face, and just a brilliant, brilliant marketer, Jay Shetty, who's had 3 billion views on YouTube. We got Daniel Harmon, who's the guy behind like the Squatty Potty ads and the Poopery ads and all those kind of funny, viral videos that you've seen. So I'm really excited about the big name speakers that we have. But I'll tell you, the history of Traffic and Conversion Summit is all about kind of the no-name people you haven't heard about delivering the cool tactical stuff. So I think, it's the big name folks who draw, but I think the best sessions still are the ones where you've never heard of this person, but they're doing something really, really cool and cutting edge on a small stage. So yeah, I'm really proud of that event. We've managed to, as it's gone big, we still kept it very, very tactical. So if you're into marketing tactics, I hope you'll come out and join us at TNC.
And easy way to get a ticket, just go to trafficandconversionsummit.com, right?
Yep, trafficandconversionsummit.com.
Awesome. Well, is there any other last minute things you wanted to talk about, or how people can reach out to you if they want to get more information about Digital Marketer or any of the other entities you're working with?
Yeah, obviously digitalmarketer.com. You feel free to sign up for our list. We've got a free membership there right at the top of the homepage. I'm at Ryan Deiss on Twitter, and I'm actually, if you try to hit me up on Facebook, that's usually my team that's managing that, full disclosure. Twitter is pretty much me. So if you, I tell people, if you need to get in touch with me, at me on Twitter, and there's a good chance that I'll see it. And I really enjoy that platform. I think it's good. I think Twitter's kind of got a bad rap, and it's not necessarily the best advertising platform or even marketing platform, but I really love it for communication. So hit me up on Twitter if you got any questions, any follow-ups, anything like that. Always like meeting new people.
Well, again, thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us. Look forward to continuing to follow you. Look forward to seeing you at the Traffic and Conversion Summit coming up in 2019.
Great. Thanks so much. Look forward to seeing you too.
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email, where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.